so we're at that point now where everybody's putting out their way too early rankings and what that looks like. And so Mike and I are going to rank SEC quarterbacks, but we're only going to do the top half, the guys that have some experience or have been with the program or are supposed to make a big splash. So we're going to do the top 8. Mike, do you want to start at the top or do you want to start at the bottom?
Well, I'll tell you what, you get into these top 4, Kaylee, and it's really hard to differentiate these quarterbacks. But I'm going to start there. And, my first quarterback might surprise you because he didn't play a full season. But from everything I'm hearing about what this quarterback brings, not just on the field, but off the field, leadership.
Don't do it, Mike. Don't do it.
And the season turnaround that I witnessed in Gainesville, I'm going with DJ Lagway. That's the guy that I'd want under center for me if I had a first choice. This year. I'm going to start with Lagway.
Wow. Okay. I mean, just go ahead and throw it all out there, Mike.
Well, I mean, he was beating the Dogs when he got hurt. Florida turned it around, and I don't necessarily believe it was all Billy Napier's coaching. But the way the Gators finished the season, something happened. And when you talk to Billy Napier, when I talked to him, I cornered him at the Senior Bowl. You were there. I mean, he was making his rounds. I was talking to him for 20 minutes. And he's like, the quarterback sets the tone of the building. And I kind of had some Carson Beck flashbacks. But I was like, he says, DJ is a guy that just leads. I watch the balls that he throws, and they're the most catchable. It's like, oh, my gosh. It's like he's got it on a string. He seems unflappable. He's got decent mobility. He's not a runner, but he's got decent mobility. But the leadership, the intangible is the thing that when you play Florida and you got a quarterback like that everyone believes in, that carries himself a certain way off the field as well. I mean, this guy is really coveted in the Florida football building. So I'm going to start there. Now, there's 4 guys that it could have been, but that's the one that I'm going to choose in this way too early quarterback ranking. Where are you going with it?
I have DJ pretty high up. I don't have him at number 1. I'm going with a more safe option because I think now more than ever in college football, experience is so important. So I threw Garrett Nusmeier at the top. I think that his decision to return actually gives LSU a really good chance to make the college football playoff, potentially make a run. You look at his stats, over 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, second in the SEC in passing yards per game, and then finished 3rd in completions. Like, if you're LSU, you feel good about that. I think Garrett Nusmeier has the highest ceiling of anybody in the SEC, so I'm taking Garrett Nusmeier with my number 1 pick. Who's your number 2?
Oh, this is another tough one, and this is I like the mobile quarterback, and Lenorris Sellers is downright scary. This guy is so big and so fast, and talk about upside. Mike Shula is his quarterback's coach there at South Carolina. And I've watched this guy basically just put the team on his shoulders and beat Clemson. I mean, it was amazing. South Carolina, another team, when you look at how they finished last season after that controversial home loss to LSU, you didn't want to play them. Now, they lost their bowl because obviously, a lot of guys had checked out by then when they didn't make the playoff. But they were playing as good as anybody and probably should have beat Alabama at Alabama. But Lenorris Sellers is a guy that I'm very high on. He was our FWA Freshman Offensive Player of the Year. I got to meet him and talk to him. This kid is an intellectual. He's really smart. And from what Mike Shula tells me, they're going to be able to do so much more with him this season. I don't know what his supporting cast looks like, but this guy, and I hate to throw this out here. It's quite a comparison, but he's got a little Cam Newton look about him when you look at how big and fast and strong and how well he can throw the ball when he's dialed in. So I'm going with Lenorris Sellers, number 2.
I also took Lenorris Sellers with my number 2 pick. Okay. Instrumental in turning South Carolina around. He took South Carolina from a team that's like, all right, we're playing South Carolina this week to, oh, my God, I wish we didn't have to play South Carolina this week. And if you're a Georgia fan, maybe that you were saying that to yourself last year, like, I'm actually really glad we don't have to play South Carolina this year. So I don't think it necessarily matters the supporting cast that you have around Lenorris Sellers. He's a playmaker, and he's going to continue to help the improvement of South Carolina. So I took him with my number 2. My number 3 is a little controversial.
Okay.
A lot of this is projections and predictions and just fulfilling the prophecy. I put Arch Manning. He's not number 1 or number 2, but he's got to be top 3. And until he just has an absolute crash out this season, I mean, most people are putting Arch Manning as their number 1 without ever seeing him play a full game. But I think Arch Manning's the real deal, so we're going to put him at 3 because he can't be 1, he can't be 2, but he can't be anything outside of the top 3.
Well, you know what? I actually agree with you. I'm a little surprised you went there. I haven't gone with Nusmeier yet. I'll tell you why in a minute.
That's
But
fine.
I like Arch Manning's mobility. I agree with you about the prophecy. The man, look, there's a reason Georgia wanted this guy, Kaylee.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why it was a big deal when he picked Texas over Georgia. We all went, oh boy, we're gonna have to live with this one down the road. Well, here it is, and I'll tell you this in full transparency. I said this before the SEC title game. If I were Georgia, I would have been more worried about seeing Arch Manning than Quinn Ewers because of his mobility and the poise that this kid has, the confidence he has. I mean, he's grown into every bit of the athletic quarterback that his granddad was. I mean, he runs better than Peyton or Eli. And he was a skinny kid. I mean, remember when he was being recruited and Jeff went down there, Jeff Santel went down to New Orleans and did all that tremendous in-person reporting, and all signs were that he was going to Georgia until Texas came in with a lot more money. But and you looked at him, you said, he just doesn't look and now you look at him and say, oh my gosh, look at how he's grown into this frame. Look at how athletic he is. Look at how tall he is. Look at that arm. And he actually picked up a couple first downs on Georgia in that game in Austin before he got clobbered and lost the ball. You saw enough there to say, oh yeah, this guy's coming along. So I'm with you. I'm going to go with Arch 3, and I'm going to go with Nusmeier 4. And the reason I have him 4 is because of I'm a little worried that he's not going to be durable. He's had some injuries, and I think people are going to send the dogs after him. No pun intended. Yes, he's an experienced quarterback. Yes, he's an NFL quarterback, but he doesn't quote unquote scare me with his legs like those 3 guys that I have ahead of him, Lagway, Sellers, and Arch Manning. So that's why I have Nusmeier 4. And that's not a slap in the face. I mean, I think if Georgia could get him, I think they probably would, right? So, yeah. I mean, this is a really talented guy that's going to play in the NFL that has those NFL abilities, maybe kind of like a Carson Beck without the drama. How about that?
Yeah, so this is where we switch because I took Lagway at 4 as well.
Okay.
Based on what we saw from him in that second half of the Florida season, this is somebody that people need to be scared of in the future because this is a player that can turn around a program. I still think that he has a lot to prove, but what I imagine DJ Lagway is going to be this year is what we all thought Nico was going to be to Tennessee last year. What you saw from him at the end of his freshman year, that's all anybody wanted to talk about was what kind of quarterback Nico was going to be. I don't think that he lived up to that. I think that DJ Lagway is going to be what we thought Nico was supposed to be in his second season. So I put DJ Lagway at my 4. At my 5, I put Gunnar Stockton. He was pushed into the spotlight after Carson Beck's injury. I think he handled it as well as he could have. But he's still got a lot to prove, and at this time, anything can happen with this quarterback room. I do think that Gunnar Stockton will end up being the starter, but he's got some things that he needs to work on before I can put him in a top 4 because, I think if you're looking at the 4 guys ahead of them, you would take them over Gunnar.
I'd take Nico over him too. I take
really?
with the mobility and the big arm. I don't know that Nico is in an offense or that he's had the receivers. I watched the game against Ohio State and I thought he took a beating, and that was good and bad, right? There was a part of me that said, "Man, this kid keeps getting up." I don't know how he keeps getting up, but he got the literal knocked out of him. But now he's a 3rd-year guy. He's an NFL quarterback, Kaylee. This guy's going to be playing he's going to be on somebody's fantasy football team if he stays healthy. He is built a little slight. He's a little thin. But man, that arm is electric. His mobility is impressive. I think that, at times he looked a little awkward. I thought maybe his decision-making was a little off, but he was asked to do a lot. He was asked to do he was asked to be more of a playmaker than I think a lot of teams. So him going into his 3rd year under Josh Heupel, this is a potential breakout player. Georgia opens their SEC season on the road in Neyland Stadium. So we'll find out there, unless something crazy happens in the portal. Gunnar Stockton will have a chance to go head-to-head with Nico, and I think a lot of fans will, be able to pass judgment on which quarterback they'd rather have by the end of that football game.
Yeah, I actually did take Nico at my 6. The injury part does scare me. with him because we did see him get banged up last year. And now he's going to have to put a lot more on his shoulders now that Dylan Sampson has gone off to the NFL. There's going to be a lot more pressure on the shoulders of Nico. And how is he going to be able to handle something like that? I think that's something that we'll be able to find out when Georgia plays Tennessee early on. So I got Nico at my 6.
Well, my 6 is a guy that beat Alabama, and he's coming back for more. And he may not have the supporting cast, but Diego Pavia, you want to talk about a playmaker? I mean, this guy was a playmaker. This guy put Vanderbilt football on his shoulders and beat Alabama, something that Carson Beck couldn't do. Vanderbilt really rallied around this guy and his ability to run the ball, his ability to play make. If you ask yourself, if you take the emblems off the helmets, I mean, he's kind of a little bit more athletic version of Gunner. I mean, Gunner's kind of a small, tough guy like him, but this guy has a big arm and he's got a lot of experience too. And again, he beat Alabama. I mean, that was not an illusion. That was probably one of the 3 biggest storylines in the SEC last year was Vanderbilt beating Alabama, the one place where Nick Saban said the home stadium didn't matter. And Diego Pavia made him eat his words and was able to get another year of eligibility. So that's why I have Diego at 6. And then I get into Gunner Stockton. And even though I hear all these people tell me about how good the Ole Miss quarterback looked when he came in for Jackson Dart, and, I hear so much about Jackson Arnold and, him transferring in, I like how much Gunner prepares. I like his moxie. And I don't think there's any substitute for the experience he had leading Georgia to a come-from-behind win against Texas. So, on the surface, if you said, wow, Mike and Kaylee ranked the quarterbacks and, Gunner was 6 on one person's list and 7 on the other, you might say, well, that's a slap in the face. But when you stop and look at the players that we have ranked above him, they're pretty much all proven commodities outside of Arch Manning.
Mm-hmm.
They've all gotten it done and won football games and carried teams. We're not talking about game managers here. We're talking about playmakers. So I think having Gunner at 7 and then Austin Simmons from Ole Miss, I'm gonna put 8 because I know that was a small sample size, but I think Lane Kiffin is really good working with quarterbacks.
Yeah, to close it out here, I took Diego Pavia with my 7. Big players make big plays. That's what he does. Just wish he was on a better team. But I do think that he's coming with a vengeance after he finally got an extra year. And then I put Taylon Green from Arkansas at 7. I think another year under Bobby Petrino will do him well. But, I mean, when you look at his numbers from last year, over 3,100 yards in the air, 15 touchdowns, 602 yards on the ground, and another 8 touchdowns. I mean, that's just a guy that I think 1 year could benefit him, and I think that Arkansas can take a step forward with him